Comstock channel. It is Wednesday, which means we have made it halfway through the week. My name is Brian Hendrickson, and today I have Dan with us. Welcome.
Thanks. Always good to be here, Brianne.
Thanks for being on. Today we are switching many of your hats that you wear for Comstock around. No WASD Wizard hat today. Instead, we are going to put that land rent hat on for today. Let's dig in because we have a lot to cover.
Okay.
What kind of trends are you seeing for land value in recent years, and where do you kind of see that trend going forward?
Well, it's timely for this discussion of land values and land rents because October 31st is kind of the magic day where on most land contracts, if you're going to give notice of ending a rent, it has to happen on October 31st unless it's specified at some different date in the contract. So the timing is good for this discussion. If you want to pop up that first chart that I sent you, this is a slide that shows the track of cropland values going back to 2009. And this is just out of USDA's August report. So this would be values from August to August, you might say. And you can see in August of 23, the average value of U.S. cropland was $5,460 an acre, up 7.9% from the previous year. And the average value of pasture land was $1,750, up 6.7% from the prior year. What I think is going to happen, though, is I think we're going to start seeing that flatten out. And we'll go into reasons for that as we get through this discussion.
National averages kind of tell us one thing, but let's kind of narrow it down to specific states and what that is looking like.
We're always talking about the Corn Belt. Well, this slide shows it in dark green. It does indeed look like a belt right across the middle of the country from the Missouri River eastward. And it shows the gradations of land values. The top land, of course, Corn Belt land, averages over $8,000 an acre. Now, this is average land. Everybody knows that really prime land is way above that. I mean, typically good Iowa land, for example, is well over $15,000 an acre. Ditto for Illinois. And we saw some gusts of aggressive bidding last year, for example, that put some land sales over the $20,000 an acre mark.
So kind of pre-recording and in our notes, you kind of wanted to focus on the trends in cash rents. So I kind of came up with a couple questions.
Okay.
Is there a reason why it is such a timely topic for all of this around? I mean, you kind of mentioned it ahead, but let's kind of get a little bit more into detail. And what is that variation going to look like throughout all of these states?
Yeah, well, again, it's the October 31st deadline that's coming up for giving notice if you're going to make a change in the land rent or give notice to your tenant that you've got a better bid from somebody else, give them a chance to match it or something like that. So that's why this discussion is pretty timely. On the cropland value one, we're going to switch gears here now and go to the rents paid. And once again, the dark green is the highest rents, but folks might notice if they remember the previous slide that the highest, the prime Corn Belt kind of shifted westward. Nebraska is now included in the top rent states, and Ohio and Pennsylvania dropped off the Corn Belt, you might say. And that's because we've got a situation where Nebraska is heavily irrigated. And so the rents paid for Nebraska land reflect the higher value of irrigated land. So that's why there's a little bit of a shift here. And once again, I have to point out to our viewers that this is just average rents above $200 an acre for average ground across all those states. We've got a lot of variation. I mean, in most Iowa, good land in Iowa, for example, is almost always above $300 an acre. Ditto for Illinois. And if that's just for good land, you get into the really prime high CSR rating ground, and we're seeing land rents anywhere from $350 to pushing $400 an acre. So that's the variation that we saw last year. And the natural question that pops up then is that, well, you said earlier, if you think land values are going to start flattening out, do you think rents are also going to sort of flatten out? And you'd think the logical answer to that would be yes. And yet the competition for rent ground is still so high that we could see a situation where the value of cropland flattens out, but the value of rents still creeps up a little bit.
So could those really high rents be for farms with livestock facilities for the renters to use, or what are you kind of seeing?
That's a really good question, and logically it makes sense that those very high rents of $350 to $400 an acre must include livestock facilities or something special, but not necessarily. In most cases, it's because that land happens to be adjacent to somebody or within a couple of miles of the renter's home base of operations. And they've got so much invested in farm machinery these days, and they can cover so many acres. And with precision farming techniques, they can run many more hours that it drives up the value that way. When it comes to livestock facilities, in most cases, it's an unusual situation where somebody wants to rent both the farm and the livestock facilities. And even where that happens, I mean, my own family operation is like that. My brother, we have a fourth generation family farm. My brother rents to the same tenant, but he has a separate rental arrangement for the land as he does for the livestock facilities that are on it. And frankly, in many cases, the renter has no interest in the livestock facilities. So they're rented out separately.
In this graphic, it shows two different columns. One is going to be your top 10 cropland value, and the other is your top 10 cash rents.
I thought this would be interesting to our viewers because logic would say, well, the top 10 states by land value are probably also the top 10 states by the rents paid. And that's not necessarily true. In fact, if our viewers look at this list, there's only 4 states on the left-hand map of cropland value that even make the list in top 10 states by rent value. And those are California, Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana. There's several states in the top 10 by value that don't even make the list on the top 10 by cash rent. But if you look at what those states are, they're coastal states. And it's just because of where they are. You know, it's location, location, location. And the potential development value or just the high population density automatically adds value to cropland in those coastal states that you're not going to realize in the Midwestern states unless you also happen to have, development potential for a new shopping center or something. I shouldn't say that, though, because shopping centers are going broke thanks to Amazon.
Do you guys see this in both sides of these columns? Are you seeing change at all throughout the years of these states, or do they kind of stay the same?
They pretty much stay the same. The ranking for each column might shift, but the top 10 states are usually the same. It's just they're ranked one over the other. One might move up a place, one might move down a place from year to year. But these tend to be the top 10 states on a fairly consistent basis.
So let's kind of talk about the different rent agreements and what trends you're kind of seeing. And when we talk about rent agreements, there are several different ones, like flat cash rents per an acre to flexible rents that change with crop prices and several others. But what are you seeing as, the top trends?
Yeah, well, a trend that's existed for years is a trend towards more cash rent than crop share. There's still a significant portion of land that's crop shared, but the cash rent is proportion continue to move up. 60 to 75% of land that's rented is rented for cash rent. One of the trends, though, that is gaining in popularity is what we call flex rent. And that's where there's a component where, to try to keep the rent somewhat affordable for the renter agrees to pay a bonus rent to the landlord if crop prices are above a certain threshold. So if it happens to be a year where crop prices are really good, the landlord forgoes a little bit. He might charge a little bit less rent than the neighbor that's strictly cash in exchange for the possibility of a bonus rent if it happens to be a good year for prices. So that's one trend, that the trend towards flex rent is really growing, and there's different formulas for determining what that should be, what the threshold price is, where the bonus is paid. That varies from contract to contract. Interesting things happening on the crop share side. There's different kinds of crop share. We're seeing some, for example, where the crop share is 2/3, 1/3, where the landlord pays 2/3, the landlord gets 1/3 of the crop, but only pays 1/3 of the expenses. But one of the things that we're noticing is that in situations like that, the tenant pays all the seed bill. There's an exception. There's a 2/3, 1/3 split in all the line items except for the seed, where the tenant pays all of the seed cost. And I'm guessing that's because the tenant wants to be in charge of what varieties he chooses, or she wants to be in charge of who he buys from. It might have my brother-in-law gives me a special deal, that sort of thing. There's the 50/50 crop share rent, which is still very popular in crop shares, where both the expenses and the crop are shared 50/50. And there's even a variation on that now, where we're starting to see some that are more 60/40, where the crop share, the landlord share is 40 for 40% of paying 40% of the expenses, and the tenant pays 60% for 60% of the revenue. So those are some of the trends that we're seeing in share arrangements.
All right, let's do one more question. And I feel like this question is going to be the biggest question most of these Comstock Channel viewers and customers have. What do you see for land values and cash rents going forward, and why?
Well, I definitely see the trend, the land values flattening out for at least the next year or so. And I'm not so sure on the rent side, because once again, the competition for rental ground is so high. Even some tenants who think, I just can't pay the same rent I paid last year, will find landlords who say, well, fine, I've got 3 guys who said if you ever say that to me, I should give them a call. We're still getting some of that going on the rent side. But I think the value of land is going to flatten out for a couple of reasons. One of them is just this chart right here. What I did is I looked at the out years for new crop corn going out to 2024, 2025, 2026, and new crop beans, November beans for 2023, 24, 25, and 26. And there's what the traders are telling us is they definitely see a downtrending in price for beans, while corn prices stay relatively flat. Well, we still have inflation with us. Expenses are still very high. Yes, we have had a break in fertilizer prices, but that's about the only key ingredient of cost of production that's come down significantly this past year. And so the thing that drives land prices is the profitability of farming the ground. And this chart shows me that for the out years, they see currently the trade is saying corn prices flat at best, and soybean prices likely trending lower between now and 2026. The other thing, Brianne, that has me suspecting that we're going to see land prices flattening out is what I see from farmer expectations. Farmers are still the dominant buyers when it comes to farmland. And every month, Purdue puts out this ag barometer thing where they measure farmer attitudes about land prices, both long-term and short-term. And what we're seeing here is the trend the past couple of months is that farmers themselves see land prices turning flat over the next year. And they're still see land prices rising over the next 5 years, but not to the confidence level that they had prior to that. So to me, what that tells me is that farmers are looking at the margins on this year's crops. They're looking at prices. They're looking at cost of production. And the farmers themselves are less confident that it's wise to bid aggressively for farmland. And so that's why I definitely see farmland prices likely flattening out for next year, unless we have another weather year and prices, take off again. That could change. Tell me what the weather is, and I'll tell you what land prices are going to do. That sort of thing. But that's what I see coming right now: is land prices flattening out. At the very least, they're going to be a much slower rate of increase. Last year, they went up 7.9%. My guesstimate is that for 2020, when we get the same report in August of 24, we might see land prices up 2 to 3%.
So do you think with land prices kind of flattening out, we might see more farmers buying land than renting, or does that really not affect all that?
That's a really good question, and I'm hesitating on answering, because if you see land flattening out, it sends farmers two signals. What does this tell us? Well, it tells us that this is a pause. This is just a pause, like we had in that period between 2015 and 2020, when land prices were just flat, and then they took off again. So a lot of farmers are going to say, okay, if this is a pause, and I find any chance at all to buy land at or below prime peak land sales, I should do it. But it also tends to send other farmers the message, well, if it's flattening out here, what if the next step after flattening out is starting to go down? So maybe I should wait a while. And that's, and I know you, Brianne, I know you're going to press me. Okay, come on, economist. Don't say on the one hand this, the one hand the other. I want a one-armed economist. What way do you really think it's going to go? If I had to guess, I would say it's going to be more on the softer side. And the reason for that is because we're just now we're not hearing these outlier sales like we did last year. 20,000 an acre, 21,000 an acre. We're not hearing those so far this year. To the contrary, we're just starting to hear of a couple of situations where some prime land sold for less than the same quality land sold for last year. We've even heard of a couple of cases where land went up for auction and it was no sale because the highest bid didn't even meet the seller's reserve price. That's not a big deal, but we're starting to hear that. And those are the early warning signs to me that increase my, if you make me guess, which way is it going to be? Just flat or just a slowing in the uptrend? I'd have to go with just flat.
All right. Thanks for switching your hats today. And that'll be all for this episode. Thanks so much.
You bet.
We are still accepting those yield results and will continue through harvest. For premium content, you can head over to the Comstock Report and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.